Let's talk about health savings accounts, or HSAs. If you think back to the video that we did on health insurance, we talked briefly about different types of plans, PPOs, HMOs, and there was a category that was a different category altogether called a health savings account. Now, an HSA is a tax-advantaged investment account, which can be used in conjunction with a high deductible health plan. The money in the account can be used to pay for bills, prescription drugs, or qualified expenses. Medical bills, important to mention. So a few important notes to start with. High deductible health plan has to be combined with, so that's a requirement. Now, there are dubious methods that people have alleged give you a way around this, but in principle, you have to pair the health savings account with a high deductible health plan. A couple other things that are important to remember here are that these have to be qualified expenses. Okay. So it can be actual bills, prescriptions, that's RX folks, for people who are wondering, and other expenses. There are health plans that have very high premiums in exchange for low deductibles, and there are plans that have very low premiums in exchange for high deductibles. That's what high deductible means. Now, depending on your state, the plans are a little bit different. But if you are in the latter category where you have a high deductible plan, the deductible has to be at least $1,400 or $2,800 on a family plan in the tax year 2022. That's going up to $1,500 and $3,000 for 2023. So I'll even write that down because it's almost 2023. Deductible minimum. A number of financial institutions offer health savings accounts. You can buy stocks, bonds, ETFs, just like you would any other account. You can make your own contributions to it. Employers and family members can as well. There is a maximum contribution, max contribution of $36.50 in 2022, and that is going up to $38.50 in 2023. You can't put more in that. There's also family limits, which are $7,300 in 22 and $7,750 in 23. If you're on Medicare, you can't contribute to an HSA, but you can, of course, take distributions from one if you have money in an HSA at the time that you go on Medicare. So what are the advantages? Why would you do this? Well, it's sort of a triple tax advantage. As contributions go into the account, they're tax deductible. So if you contribute $38.50 next year, that reduces your taxable income by $38.50. That's benefit number one. If they're coming from an employer, they're not subject to payroll taxes, and you don't have to pay taxes on the capital gains that accrue in the account over time. So it's a triple benefit. It also serves as sort of a protection for people who have high deductible plans, since you're relying less on your health insurance for paying the bills. Also, you're not going to be paying so much in premiums each month because the high deductible plans tend to have lower premiums. What are the downsides? The downsides are high deductible plans can be risky if you don't have the money set aside for what you might owe in medical bills. So you have to understand the limits of the plan. There are also rules for withdrawals. If money is taken out for something that is not a qualified medical expense, you get a 20% penalty. You have to pay the income tax. If you're over age 65, you don't have to pay the penalty, but you do pay the tax. So this can be a good option for many people. Understand the limitations, understand the type of plan that you need to have, and understand what happens if you end up saying, the money's in there, I want to get it out, but I don't want to use it for medical bills. Now, one other thing, and I am not offering my opinion on this. There is a strategy that has been written about extensively beyond the scope of this segment. And the strategy says, have an HSA, contribute. Don't actually take the money out of it to pay for medical expenses. In other words, contribute to the HSA, but pay for your medical expenses out of a different account. Keep the receipts because you don't have to take the money out of the HSA when you incur the fee. So imagine, for example, I go to my dermatology appointment. I have one coming up. I get a skin scan every year. My mom had skin cancer, important to be monitored every year. I pay my copay. My copay is, I think, $60 because I have a terrible plan. I can just pay with a credit card, the $60. And instead of then reimbursing myself out of my HSA, I leave the money in there. I keep the receipt for my $60 copay. I can spend years accumulating these receipts. And then after a certain number of years, you can take all the money out of the HSA, report that you have the receipts to match it up, but you've already paid for the health expenses. You now can just keep the money. And because you are matching it to health expenses, you don't pay any taxes or capital gains. This is an idea that some people have. Of course, you have to have the money to be both contributing to the HSA and paying for the expenses out of pocket. If you're curious about that, read about it, Google it. I'm not recommending it. It's merely something that is discussed.